Drop it. Power panel. Well, it's two people, but it's very, very powerful. Jan Hugh Kasparian. The power panel is back on a Friday. My dress shirts are back. So my jackets are back. Okay. Look,
where'd they go?
They were somewhere, and they have now been recovered. There's scavenging going on. Okay. You got to make do in these tough times, Casper. Okay.
Look, we're definitely undergoing tough times. Everyone's feeling it. But the one highlight of having to do the show remotely was that I thought I escaped that power panel animation. But no, you found a way to bring it back.
That's right. That's right. Look, the members asked for it. I'm here to deliver. Okay. I am just a conduit for you guys in the audience. You are the Young Turks. Speaking of which, let's conduit away. I wanted to see how we're doing this month in the fundraising drive. We were doing tyt.com/go, trying to get 200,000 a month. So we don't. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. So let's see how that goes. Do we got a thermometer, Brett? Yeah, $59,760. Is all I have to say about that.
Wasn't it like 37,000 last time we checked?
No. That would have been no. Okay.
But still, that's pretty damn impressive. It's April 3rd. You guys are amazing.
No, it's great. It's great. We were like at 52,000 at the end of yesterday's show. So it was fantastic. Let's keep it going. Can I see 65 by the end of a special Spiffy Friday? Okay. Anyway, but only do what you can, as I always say. Okay, it's tough times for everybody. All right, later in the program, I am going to go ballistic. I know, fill in the blank. No, in this case on Wisconsin, I cannot believe they're going to have an election on Tuesday. We're going to cover it here, but I don't know. The wake in Wisconsin. I think they're playing with their own lives. I mean, I don't mean just they're playing with the poll workers' lives. They ain't going to go to the polls themselves. But I think it's literally criminal negligence. All right, we'll talk about it later in the show. Meanwhile, tons of stories to get to right now. Speaking of criminal negligence, we bring you Jared Kushner.
Yes. All right. Well, Jared Kushner is ripping a page out of his father-in-law's book by basically blaming governors for not doing their due diligence in preparing for the coronavirus. Now, Jared Kushner is not known for doing press conferences, but in a recent press conference in regard to COVID-19, he felt the need to argue that the federal stockpile of the desperately needed medical equipment is just for the federal government. It's not for the states. Let's take a look.
You have instances where in cities they're running out, but the state still has a stockpile. And the notion of the federal stockpile was it's supposed to be our stockpile. It's not supposed to be state stockpiles that they then use. So we're encouraging the states to make sure that they're assessing the needs, they're getting the data from their local situations, and then trying to fill it with the supplies that we've given them. The same thing with the masks.
Okay, so let me just go ahead and fill in the blanks. First off, the whole purpose of the federal government is to keep Americans safe in the times of crisis. And right now, we are experiencing a crisis. This idea that states need to deal with this situation individually and the stockpile in the federal government is for the federal government, what does that even mean? Well, let me tell you what was on the Department of Homeland Security website. It's the Strategic National Stockpile website, to be specific. It noted, until today, by the way, when the Trump administration changed it, that when state, local, tribal, and territorial responders request federal assistance to support their response efforts, the stockpile ensures that the right medicines and supplies get to those who need them most during an emergency. The stockpile could resupply state and local public health agencies in a catastrophic health event. kind of like the catastrophic health event we're experiencing right now. And just to give you a little bit of history, when it comes to that stockpile, to satisfy demand in the case of emergencies like the coronavirus pandemic, the federal government in 1999 established the Strategic National Stockpile, a last resort cache of drugs and supplies intended to be tapped only in moments of crisis. We are now currently in a moment of crisis. And the issue here is that the federal government did not do a good job maintaining things like ventilators to make sure that they would work as soon as we would need them for service. Donald Trump has failed to pull the trigger when it comes to the Defense Production Act. And so they're refusing to take responsibility for their own actions and blaming governors for what's happening right now, which is ridiculous.
Okay, so let's break it down one by one. So Jared Kushner says, not for the states, it's for us. Who is us? No one has any idea what he means by us. Does he mean the federal government? Because the federal government's almost, minuscule compared to the 330 million people in the country that are in the states. Does he mean the Kushner and Trump family? There's some chance. He might literally mean this is for the Oval Office and the White House. And when you're all dying, we're not going to let go of our masks. And I'm going to explain the stockpile in a second in terms of how much is left. That might actually inform that. And that's why he might be saying it in that way. But the law until today was super clear. The website was clear. Everything was clear. Obviously, it's for the human beings called United States citizens that happen to live in the 50 states. It doesn't mean anything other than that. It doesn't mean us on planet Saturn. It's here in America for the states, obviously. Okay, this is absurd. Okay, second of all, this idea of states, man, I ain't got nothing to do with it. And it's hey, let Rhode Island deal with it. What am I, the president? Yeah, it's like, let's say the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, and FDR in that analogy would say, hey, man, that ain't got nothing to do with me, man. Let Hawaii deal with it. Okay, hey, if they go to California next, California should fight the Japanese and the Nazis first, and then we could come in as a supplement. No, that's not how it works. And you said we were on a wartime footing. You've used the Defense Production Act. That means the federal government is the one that's supposed to coordinate the United States of America. So these guys are absurd, but I have more on the stockpile in a second.
So I want to go to the second video because this need to pass the blame on anyone other than members of Trump's administration is so pathetic. Their unwillingness to take responsibility is so pathetic. And this is what happens when you have an inexperienced little boy who has, no expertise other than being Donald Trump's son-in-law, making decisions when it comes to a crisis like this pandemic. Take a look at what else he had to say.
The states should know how many ventilators they have in their states. And by the way, some governors you speak to are senators, and they don't know what's in their state. Some governors I'll speak to, and they'll know to the number how many ventilators they have in their state, because that's the first thing a good manager will do. What a lot of the voters are seeing now is that when you elect somebody to be a mayor or a governor or a president, you're trying to think about who will be a competent manager during the time of crisis. This is a time of crisis, and you're seeing certain people are better managers than others. So what I would say is that the way that the federal government's trying to allocate is they're trying to make sure, A, you have your data, right? Don't ask us for things when you don't know what you have in your own state. Just because you're scared, you ask your medical professionals, and they don't know. You have to take inventory of what you have in your own state, and then you have to be able to show that there's a real need. And so we pre-positioned a lot of things because most governors off the bat didn't know what they needed.
No, Cenk, I got to give you some context because it's rich to hear him argue. Some people are just bad managers. They're bad managers. They don't know. They haven't taken inventory. Let's go to the last graphic because the federal government has failed to take inventory of its depleted medical supplies. For instance, the national stockpile was significantly depleted during the H1N1 influenza outbreak of 2009 when 85 million N95 respirators were distributed from their stockpile and was never significantly replenished despite repeated warnings and requests from healthcare and industry groups. Now, honestly, it was depleted since 2009, so that's partly on Obama as well. But right now, with the Trump administration in charge, it's ridiculous for Jared Kushner to argue that governors are the bad managers when the federal government hasn't done a good job maintaining its own inventory of desperately needed medical supplies.
To the best of their ability to know it, they think that there are only 12 million masks left in the stockpile. We gave out 85 million in a emergency of H1N1 that was a far, far smaller viral disease than the one we're facing now, that affected a lot less people and that killed a lot less people. So this thing is spreading like wildfire. We have an unreal number of cases now. New York alone has over 100,000 cases, and these guys don't have enough masks. And they didn't think to make more masks when we have known for months that this is happening. So January 21st is the first case of the wildly contagious coronavirus hitting the United States of America and the state of Washington. January 21st, January 20th, it hits South Korea. South Korea reacts immediately. They have medical protective gear. They have tests. They put aside the people who are sick. They determine who is sick. We, on the other hand, with our grotesque incompetence, the world's worst manager, Donald Trump, we do nothing. We don't even tell people that they need masks, and the CDC and the FDA don't weigh in, FDA in particular in this case, until March 2nd. We knew for sure in the beginning of February. We wasted one whole month doing nothing, not only not building the stockpile, but also, as we're going to discuss later in the show, not telling the manufacturers that they must produce more masks. Meanwhile, the manufacturers are trying to gorge on profits and worrying about their own bottom line while people are dying, and Trump did nothing. So they might be down to such little masks in the stockpile that Kushner or Trump are literally thinking, I don't want to give that in case I need it and my doctors need it. This is the kind of total incompetence by Kushner, and he has the nerve to come out here and talk as if oh, he's a management guru. Hey, if you didn't get the memo, Jared, your dad bribed Harvard into letting you in. You didn't actually earn your way into Harvard. You're an idiot. You literally did the worst real estate deal in American history. That's a fact. The most expensive building at the peak of the market. If Qatar didn't bail them out through their corruption because his father-in-law became president, he would have bankrupted his entire billionaire family. This guy's a total moron. And he's lecturing us on how to manage things? Please.
Look, the only thing Jared Kushner seems to be really good at managing are his eyebrows, which I believe are overmanaged. Let them grow, homeboy. Let them grow. But aside from that, well, aside from that, though, I do want to say, you bring up their incompetence, their lack of preparedness for this pandemic. So what does a leader do once they realize that they've made a big mistake? A true leader takes responsibility and tries to make things better, to correct the mistakes. But that's not what happens in the Trump administration. As I mentioned earlier, the Strategic National Stockpile website was very clear in stating what the law was, or is actually, and what that stockpile is meant for. After Jared Kushner's ridiculous press conference and the backlash that he received, the Department of Homeland Security changed the website to say the following: the Strategic National Stockpile's role is to supplement state and local supplies during public health emergencies. Many states have products stockpiled as well. The supplies, medicines, and devices for life-saving care contained in the stockpile can be used as a short-term stopgap buffer when the immediate supply of adequate amounts of these materials may not be immediately available. So they changed the wording to make it appear as though the onus is mostly on the states. The states need to take care of themselves. They're independent. And if they desperately need it, maybe the federal government can jump in and provide some help. It's ridiculous.
As Anna read to you earlier, the earlier message said that the federal government must ensure that the states have enough medical materials. The new language says, well, I mean, like, I guess we'll be a supplement or something. What are we, the federal government? What are we, the United States of America? No. If there's a massive medical emergency, let's hope that South Dakota and Delaware figure it out. And so when you change government websites afterwards to make them factually incorrect, and you make it so that it makes it seem like the people in charge were correct in hindsight, there's a phrase for that, and it's literally political correctness. They changed the website so it wouldn't be factually correct, it would be politically correct, so that Trump and Kushner wouldn't get mad at the website and at the people that are running the factually correct stuff. This is literally what the Soviets and, yes, the Germans did during World War II. They would not allow things that were correct into the press or into the government. They would literally tell people what is the politically correct position. And now the new politically correct position, thanks to Kushner, is, yeah, states, you're on your own. Hope that Arkansas figures it out. Whatever. It's not like we have any responsibility. His father-in-law said it. He said, I have no responsibility at all. Well, that's the buffoon, the idiot, the lazy, incompetent manager we have in charge. Gee, I wonder why we have an out-of-control epidemic, and now we lead the world in most number of cases.
Well, let's move on to one other angle when it comes to medical supplies, and this is pretty devastating. So, as we know, many physicians are in dire need of respirator masks. They're known as the N95 respirator masks that 3M makes in specific. And luckily, Donald Trump did invoke the Defense Production Act in order to increase the production of these desperately needed masks. He invoked it last night. Okay, so that's more incompetence from Donald Trump, especially when it comes to an issue that's been raised over and over again for a long time now. Okay, now the text of Trump's order issued directs acting Homeland Security Secretary Chad Wolf to use any and all authority available under the act to acquire from any appropriate subsidiary or affiliate of 3M Company the number of N95 respirators that the administration determines to be appropriate. So look, this is good news. Unfortunately, he invoked the Defense Production Act a little too late, but at least he invoked it. It's the bare minimum at this point. But here's one other part of it that actually makes this story a little more complex. So in its statement, according to CNBC, the company said the Trump administration also requested that 3M cease exporting respirators that we currently manufacture in the United States to the Canadian and Latin American markets. Okay, so there was a fascinating response from the CEO of 3M, and I hadn't really thought about how actually following through with what the Trump administration wants here could backfire in very terrible ways. But Jake, I wanted you to jump in before we go to the CEO's response.
Yeah, look, I think the CEO is totally full of crap, and I think he has been from day one. So there is some merit to his response that you're going to read in a sec. But overall, of the two parties here, my loathing for Donald Trump, I think, is fairly well known, right? And the fact that I think he's one of the dumbest people in the country is fairly well known. The way that he did this was negligently late, and of course, as usual, in a childish tweet. Having said all of that, between Trump and the 3M CEO, who's right? Trump is. The CEO for 3M is worse. He could have been manufacturing these a long time ago, but he held out for liability protection that they've been asking for a long time, having nothing to do with the coronavirus, because I don't know if their products are defective, but apparently they think they are. And so they didn't want to face lawsuits if people get sick. So they're like, nope, I'm not going to produce anything unless you give me liability protection.
So let me jump in, because there's definitely a lot of truth in what you're saying. They've been trying to do away with certain regulations when it comes to these masks for a long time. And I want to be specific about the regulations and what they entail. So they make different masks based on the job that various people are doing. So there are regulations ensuring that the masks provided to doctors fit a certain way in order to protect them, but they also create N95 masks that are used for construction workers. And so the requirements for the construction worker masks are also different. What they've been trying to do for a long time before this pandemic is essentially do away with those regulations so they're not held liable in the future if there are issues with those masks. Now, with this pandemic, they tried to also get rid of those regulations because they wanted to be able to, according to them, produce more of these masks without worrying about it being a liability if they don't follow the regulations that are on the books. So there's definitely truth in what you're saying. But at the same time, if you're in the middle of a crisis, I just think Trump should have taken action immediately, right? So let's do what it takes to get those masks produced ASAP. That includes maybe rethinking the regulations and also, of course, invoking the Defense Production Act, which Trump was asleep at the wheel on until last night.
Okay, so let me explain what should have happened, okay? So first of all, they should have gone to 3M on January 22nd. As soon as we had the first case, I would have asked the scientists, it spread like wildfire in China. Is there a chance it's going to spread like wildfire here? They would have immediately told you yes. And then you wouldn't have known all the things that you know today back then. But the scientists already knew a lot, right? And the very first thing that you'd want is test kits. We got to get test kits. We had almost none in the country. Total unbelievable, grotesque incompetence not to order those test kits immediately and get them here. Number two thing you need is masks and protective equipment, including gloves. Obviously. So they don't do that at the end of January. They don't do it for all of February. Finally, Mike Pence gets his ass down to 3M headquarters on March 5th, okay? There, the CEO of 3M says to him, hey, I can make 100 million of these a month, which is what we need, right? He says, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just continue making 5 million for medical reasons, and I'm going to continue to make the other ones for industrial reasons. Now, if I'm Mike Pence, here's my reaction. Number one, no. That's not going to happen, and I'm not going to leave here until if you tell me you can make 100 million medical masks, that's what you're going to do, okay? And so, but he asks him, and I would have asked him too, why not? And my guess is, okay, and I don't know what Pence learned. I don't know if he bothered to ask him this part. Number one, why do you continue to insist on making industrial masks when we just told you it's an absolute emergency and we need, this is not January anymore, it's not February anymore, now we're in March, everybody knows, right? We need all those medical masks. My guess is they make more profit from the other masks. And then they're still exporting masks. Yes, Latin America needs it. Yes, Canada needs it. Other places need it. Yes, there's a humanitarian need. But our outbreak was already shaping up to be gigantic, and it turns out it was gigantic, and we do lead the world. We need the masks. So you need it. My guess is, why do they want to keep shipping it overseas? Because they have contracts, and they probably make more profit on that. Money. And then he says, oh, well, look, I'm not going to do it unless you give me liability protection that I've been asking for all this time, having nothing to do with coronavirus. Money. No.
Yeah.
No. On March 5th, Mike Pence should have said, you're going to make these goddamn masks, and you're going to get me 100 million masks. Otherwise, I'm using the Defense Production Act tomorrow. You're going to make the goddamn masks. Instead, he's like, yes, sir, Mr. CEO, sir. You're my donor, sir. Yes, sir. Oh, yes, you do whatever you want, sir. And finally, they get their ass around to doing it. And that's why I'm telling you today, Trump is right and the CEO is wrong, because I'm fair and I'm honest. But goddamn, they're late.
Yeah, they are. They are late. And you do make a devastating point, Cenk, because I was thinking, yeah, I mean, look, we're in the middle of a crisis. So let's just, if we need those masks made, yeah, let's give them what they want when it comes to the liability regulations. But your devastating point is we need medical masks. So halt production on everything else and make the medical masks. That way you're not worried about liability because you're making the exact masks that we need. And they actually follow the regulations that are there for a reason, right? Those regulations are there to ensure that the masks are actually effective in helping doctors and nurses protect themselves when they're treating, patients who have a virus. So that's a really good point. But go ahead, Cenk.
Anna, one more thing. Look, I know that they have a bunch of industrial masks they can convert over. No problem. Convert them too. Maybe that's quicker. Great. Convert them. You're worried about liability. You don't. If I'm Pence, I say, yeah, in this I'm not going to give you blanket liability for the rest of time and for your past mistakes. But in this case, you want liability protection, we'll give it to you. And in fact, the federal government did. They issued a regulation saying, don't worry, if there's any liability in this case, the federal government will take on that liability and not 3M. That actually was the right thing for the federal government to do, because I don't have time for 3M's goddamn lawyers. And if they take one more day, I'll have the lawyers arrested, do the Defense Production Act, and have them make those goddamn masks. But okay, fine, we already gave you that. No, then 3M, in their infinite greed, said, nope, even though you already gave me the regulation that I want it for the future as well. And I'm not going to act until Congress passes a law. And that took several more weeks. And yes, of course, the Republicans gave them what they wanted, blanket immunity for the rest of time. Because this is all about 3M's profits. Because what we did with creating the stock market and public corporations is we built a greed machine. And it will not stop. And it will mow down everything in its path to maximize profit. So it doesn't matter if hundreds of millions of lives are on the line. Maximize profit. Otherwise, I'm not making a single mask. And that's what they did. They should have broken that CEO's back proverbially well over a month ago and have him doing those masks. I don't know how many lives were lost because the CEO was worried, hey, look, if I don't make maximum profit here, I'll get fired later and I'll lose my multi-million-dollar job. So I got to just crush the American people for longer and longer and longer to maximize my profit. That's what he did. Let's just be honest about it.
So there's one other component real quick, Cenk, that I feel like we do need to discuss, though, because it has to do with what 3M is threatening could happen if they cease exports to Canada and Latin American countries. The company, in a statement, said, ceasing all export of respirators produced in the United States would likely cause other countries to retaliate and do the same, as some have already done. If that were to occur, the net number of respirators being made available to the United States could actually decrease. This is the opposite of what we and the administration, on the behalf of the American people, both seek. So, I mean, that's an interesting argument. I would like to see actual numbers and evidence of that. But, you know, and I don't know specifically in the case of 3M, but what I do know, just to kind of buttress your point, Cenk, is based on multiple reports, including a great piece written by Lee Fong at The Intercept, you're right in that a lot of these medical companies, medical supply companies, have been making deals not with hospitals abroad, not with, you know, public officials abroad, but with private companies abroad. They've been entering these contracts and selling to private companies in foreign countries. And so there is some question about a profit motive there. And at the end of the day, the people who get screwed are average citizens, both here in the United States and in other countries. So
in this case, the problem is everyone involved is either a crook or an idiot. So it's impossible to know. So if you had a functioning government, then you could trust that they've done the calculations on it. And they've had all this time now about 2.5 months. You'd think someone in the massive United States government would have said, hey, how many masks do we export? How many do we import? If we import more masks than we export, then we don't want to piss off our trading partners, because then we'll have net less masks in the country. And can we look at Thailand that produces a lot of masks? I'm just saying as an example. I don't know that particular country does. But if it were the case, Thailand produces a lot of masks, but Vietnam doesn't, or reverse it. It doesn't matter, right? Well, maybe we could make a deal with Thailand, but not with Vietnam. You would have made all of these calculations. And in a situation like this, you actually would have been fairly crass about it, because I need masks to protect my own people. And if it turns out I'm going to send less masks to Thailand, this is a very, very, very rare situation where that's the decision you got to make. But no one made that calculation in the United States government, because we didn't elect competent leaders to run a government. We elected reality show hosts to run a circus. So now that we have a serious pandemic on our hands, we don't know what to do with the guy who walks on glass, and the bearded lady, and the carnival barker, and the clown. They're like, okay, where should the clown go? The clown shouldn't go anywhere because he shouldn't be in government. So do I know import or export more masks? No. Does anyone know? No. So it's possible that 3M is right that we import more. Do I trust 3M? Hell no. 3M doesn't care. And by the way, I'm not saying this about like that 3M is particularly evil or their CEO is. No, they're all replaceable. They're widgets. We've created a system with public corporations where they're all must, by law, maximize profit. The only thing they're allowed to do is be greedy. So even when so many people's lives are on the line, the CEO goes, yes, but how am I going to make a buck? It's about me and my company and my shareholders making money. I don't care about your lives. And that's the system we created. So even if you took out that CEO, you'd put in another CEO who's just as vicious. And if he wasn't that vicious, his board would fire him and say, oh my God, in the middle of a pandemic, you did not maximize our profit. Guaranteed.
That's why it's ridiculous when people say that, you don't want government to take control of things like healthcare, because if you have a serious situation like a pandemic, companies are going to step up and do kind things out of the goodness of their hearts. That's not the way things work, and we're seeing it in real time. We got to take a break. When we come back, we have more news for you, including Donald Trump's retaliation against a member of the military for speaking the truth.
You're about to watch some behind-the-scenes footage of the Young Turks. Ooh. Now, these are partial videos. If you want to get all of them, you become a member. Go to tyt.com/join, and you'll get all the behind-the-scenes of me, Anna, John, JR, a little bit reality show-like. tyt.com/join, and enjoy this.
You know what you're seeing behind me? Jersey. Hold. Watch me flip this camera. However I flip it. Do I flip it like this? No, I just took a picture. I'm bitsing right now.
What?
Behind the scenes.
Oh, okay. For members? I don't have my face on.
She doesn't have her face on, folks. Oh, that's JR's ass right there.
You can't take 5 minutes off, can you?
No, I can't, Johnny Pie. I said it was live stream,
But I was lying. It's not a live stream. It's just for members.
Bitsy, this is my cat. You know what his name is? Kiki Cat.
Animals are innocent.
Control room and the insanity is obviously there.
Right now, as you can see, I'm directing or tech directing.
I'm so happy to be here.
This is what like a Labor Day beard looks like for Jank. Man, you're a Young Turks viewer if you recognize me like this.
Oh, thank you. You are the one person in my life I would love to meet.
What's going on, guys? This is a Bitsy or a BTS or behind the scenes with Hassan Piker, aka Woke Bay.
Oh, hi. I didn't see you there.
I have finished my show, The Damage Report, and now I get into a really awkward time of the day.
When I'm sitting, the control room is right there. So I can see Bart.
This is the Pittsburgh office, by the way. Referred to often as the boiler room.
You see how it's ripped? Is it super unprofessional to wear that at a business meeting? Or am I like cool, rebel?
I just finished doing the power panel and I'm fired up.
What do you do for TYT?
Not a whole lot.
If you're frantically tweeting at us that something's broken, thank you, because I'm fixing it.
And thank you for being a TYT member.
Super last thing, because there's always got to be a super last thing. Oh, that was disastrous. This has been behind the scenes, behind the scenes.
We're gonna do a little thing we like to call Weekly World News. Weekly World News! I cull stories from around the globe, stories that aren't covered on the main show or aren't covered enough, and I turn it into a 5-question quiz for Dave and Steve. All right, do we have our answers? A from Dave and C from Steve, and the correct answer is B, an oil tanker that sank off the coast of China. Okay, we have one answer of B and one answer of C. What is the correct answer? It is, of course, A, an airplane wing walking stunt gone wrong. Okay, we have an answer of A from Dave and C from Steve. The correct answer is B. We have an answer of B and C. What is the correct answer in true Weekly World News tradition? It's A. Come on. Taking the bear out for ice cream.
That can't possibly be true. We're terrible today. Just terrible.
When news is breaking and when you need Brett Ehrlich, it's time. When news breaks, when news is breaking and you like... When news is breaking and you need Brett Ehrlich, it's time for Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Ehrlich.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Cenk and Anna with you guys. I got great news for you guys. Old school's back. It's a reference to an old Eminem song. Anyway, so on Tuesday, we're going to have an extravaganza. Normally, old school would be mainly behind the paywall, but this time it'll be free, available to everyone. We're going to have an hour-long post-game that would normally be behind the paywall, but it's going to be free, available to everyone. We're going to do the Wisconsin coverage, the bloodbath in Wisconsin. It's gross. We're going to talk about it later in the show. But yes, believe it or not, they're actually having an election on Tuesday. So it's our coverage of that whole night starts at 6 o'clock Eastern. And you've got all those shows, including the return of Old School, all back to back to back. So don't miss it. Tell everybody. tyt.com/live or youtube.com/tyt. Okay, now one other thing that's really important, programming change, except for that Tuesday. Going forward, conversation is also back, but it's actually before the main show. So it'll be at 5:30 Eastern every day. So tune in a little bit earlier than you normally would. 5:30 Eastern will be interviews, including with great progressives, reporters, candidates, etc. Okay. As quickly as I can, let me get through the comments. The members say fun things. Nipple Pierce Jenkins Skinny Jeans writes in, they said it couldn't be dropped, but it was dropped. Woohoo, power panel's back. I agree. Witchy Witch says Kushner is a slumlord. He's probably hoarding his own stockpile, letting people die amid the roaches he refuses to fumigate. That's Witchy Witch's opinion. When I see it there. Bernie is my spirit animal, says Jared is like the neighbor's bratty kid that you just want to punt back onto his side of the fence. I can't stand him. Don't punt anyone, but boy, does he look like a bratty kid. Okay, you guys are right. We got a lot more news for you guys, so we got to go.
All right, so let's talk about Trump's need to retaliate against anyone who might embarrass him. So the commander of the USS Roosevelt has been relieved of duty after he raised the alarm over a number of sailors who were showing signs of COVID-19. And he was right. So Captain Brett Crozier was the captain who was eventually relieved of duty. He was the commanding officer of the Roosevelt, an aircraft carrier with a crew of nearly 5,000 people. Now, he's going to be relieved of duty, but he will keep his rank and remain in the Navy. Now, the official reason for relieving him of duty is loss of trust and confidence, according to officials who spoke to NBC News. Now, many of the sailors who were aboard that ship ended up testing positive for the virus. The ship pulled into port in Guam last week, several days after multiple crew members tested positive for the virus. By Wednesday, there were 93 positive test results, and more than 1,000 people were taken off the carrier and placed into isolation on Guam. Now, he did the right thing, if you ask me, because there needed to be action. He wrote a strongly worded letter that eventually got leaked to the press. But since it got leaked to the press and it apparently embarrassed the military, maybe even the Trump administration, he was eventually relieved of duty. Now, just to give you a sense of how the sailors feel about him, here's what the reaction was as he was walking off the aircraft carrier.
Okay, Look, I have a lot to say about this. First of all, that's a movie scene, man. That's the end of Dead Poets Society. Oh, Captain, my Captain. They're chanting Captain Crozier, because he did his job. His job is to save those guys' lives. And whether it's a war or it's a virus that's threatening their lives, you don't write that email unless you already asked and asked and asked and you didn't get it. And God damn it, you got guys that might die on that ship, and you're going to write an email to your superiors and you're going to say, I need the help and I need it now. And they have this flimsy excuse about, oh, he didn't write it the right exact way. Get out of here. Nobody believes that. You know what happened? Is the minute it hit the press, Trump's feelings were hurt. He caught feelings. How dare this guy say that we're not taking care of their troops? That could hurt my poll numbers. This guy's hurting my poll numbers. And you can tell from the reaction of the head of the Navy, because as he's relieving him of duty there, he keeps saying he's a wonderful commander and he's a terrific guy. And you can tell he's saying, I don't want to do this, but I was told that I have to do this. So you got to get off the ship, and we're going to put on some lackey who's not going to protect the sailors in that case, who's not going to give a damn about them, who's going to be a piece of crap careerist that is going to not care about those guys, but going to care about the most important person in the country, which is Donald Trump, for this corrupt, sick Trump administration.
Donald Trump does not care about the lives of anyone, including our troops, including these sailors. He doesn't care about anything other than himself. You're right, Cenk. All he cares about is his own self-image. And what's incredible is how they'll drag him through the mud and try to destroy his reputation in an effort to save Donald Trump's ego. So Acting Navy Secretary Thomas Modly, the same individual you were referring to earlier, said that Crozier was removed from his post because he sent the letter over non-secure, unclassified email to a broad array of people rather than up the chain of command. Look, I got to be honest with you. Who the hell cares about the chain of command when it comes to raising the alarm about a very legitimate issue? You have people stuck. You have soldiers stuck on this aircraft carrier, and action isn't being taken to protect them against a virus that's killing thousands of Americans as we speak.
No, I don't believe them. I don't believe them. So first of all, look, chain of command matters, but Crozier is not going to write a letter. He didn't get to be captain of that ship accidentally. The guys who get promoted to that level, I'm not saying like I have hero worship of them. You know, it totally depends on the circumstance. That's not who I am. But they don't get to that level without knowing how to handle the bureaucracy and the chain of command. So I'm sure that the reason he wrote that letter is because the chain of command was not working. He would bring it up to people and get dismissed, because now the fish rots from the head down. And you have a commander-in-chief who's a bumbling egomaniac who doesn't respond to anything. And so he writes that letter, but he writes it to several people in his chain of command. It's not like he wrote it to randos, okay? He didn't write it to the press. He wrote it to multiple people in the chain of command. So the other person who I'm sure is livid is a person in the chain of command right above Crozier, because it embarrasses that guy, because he apparently didn't do anything to fix the situation. That's why Crozier had to write it to multiple people in the chain of command in order to get action done. So this is all about hurt feelings. It has nothing to do with actually protecting the troops. So now, if you're a current service member or a veteran, you know what the priorities of this administration are. Those service members, it's their last priority. Who cares? But, oh my God, getting embarrassed politically, that could hurt their career a tiny bit. That's their priorities.
We got to take a break. We'll be right back.
You know, old school's pitched to me from Cenk. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben, and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, "Sir, would you like to rethink that?" And I go, "What are you talking about?"
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps f***ing cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong! I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? You know, what makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the f***? You said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. There's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
Heard of it? I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not f***ing, Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us.
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough.
Kingsley.
See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Craig starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join and free trial. I'm old school with the old folks.
Good
John,
man.
come back.
Field goal here. It's time to switch to beer.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Do your best.
He's a little like... Let's go!
Oh. No one's happy now.
Give him another try.
Oh! Wow.
This is the weirdest game.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking. I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
All right, back on the Young Turks. Member comments as usual, and tyt.com/join to become a member. More critical than ever. And by the way, guys, today there's a usual post game and happy half hour after the show. Make sure you check that out. We got a lot more programming for members as well. Always tyt.com/join. If you want, if you're watching on YouTube, there's a little join button underneath the video. You click on that. Several different layers. The $4.99 layer gets you the post games. Okay, I'm a damn lib. Writes in, going down with the ship has a new meaning. Unfortunately true. Eclectic Miscellaneous says, so Captain Crozier was relieved of duty because of, quote, loss of trust and confidence. God, I wish we could do the same thing to Trump. Well, we kind of can, but it would require a strong Democratic Party. And Gabby Marita says, sailors, not soldiers, on behalf of the great Chris Huck. So Chris is a veteran sailor, and he's part of our Pittsburgh office, and he's awesome. But I hope we didn't say soldiers. I said sailors, I said service members, but maybe one of us said soldiers. So if we did, thank you for correcting us, Gabby. We appreciate that. And I end that thought with Captain Crozier, Captain Crozier. If no one else does, I'll make a movie out of it. All right, Anna, what's next?
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Democratic primaries, because there is some news on that front. So the Democratic Party in Wisconsin has decided that they will move forward with their primary election on Tuesday, April 7th, putting both voters and poll workers in danger during the middle of this pandemic. Now, as Wisconsin moves ahead with its scheduled elections on Tuesday, according to the New York Times, which include both presidential primaries, a statewide Supreme Court race, and local races, more than 1,850 municipal clerks and thousands more poll workers will be thrust into frontline positions as the nation's struggle with the coronavirus. Now, keep in mind that a number of poll workers have decided to say that they're not going to show up, and for good reason. They don't want to put themselves in danger. They don't want to contract a virus and then spread it to their loved ones. One poll worker named Angie Kopas told the New York Times, quote, "I'm scared. On election day, we're exposed to them and everyone they came across. I'm the only person in the office and I run it all." And so one of the other issues is, since so many poll workers have decided that they're not going to show up, the state has decided, well, we're not going to have as many polling locations available, so they're going to cram most voters in small spaces by closing down a bunch of the other polling locations. A much better solution to this would be to postpone the primary, as other states have done, but Wisconsin is refusing to do that.
I think there's a chance that there's going to be criminal responsibility at the end of this. I can't understand how these governors at this late date still don't understand what's going on. You know, I haven't looked at polls in 3 weeks. So I imagine that Biden is leading, probably by a lot, and that's probably why they want to rush this election. I'll say something else. I guarantee you that if Bernie was leading, there's no way they hold this election. No way, no how. Everyone on planet Earth knows it. And if the governor of Wisconsin or Tom Perez says anything otherwise, they are unmitigated liars. Everybody knows that, okay? So now let's talk about how dire the situation is. So they think it's like a Biden versus Bernie, Biden. No, guys. They don't have masks yet. A huge percentage of the poll workers are over 60 years old. They're like, we're hoping that the masks will arrive right before the elections. You're hoping? You're going to send in people into an enclosed space that are over 60 years old. I was reading the details of some of the poll workers. They've got lung problems. They've got this disease. They've got that disease. We got 1,850 municipal workers, clerks, and then clerks, and then thousands of poll workers on top of that. Huge percentage over 60 and potentially. You're going to, without gloves and masks, they're going to go into an enclosed space and sit there for hours as hundreds of people go through them. No, are you insane? If you're a poll worker in Wisconsin, I love you. And elections are so important. And we tell people to vote and go out and vote more than almost any show you could possibly imagine. But if you're a poll worker, don't go. Forget Bernie, forget Biden. It isn't about that. They're endangering your life. It's airborne. It's airborne.
Yes.
It
let me
stays
give
in the
you
air for 2 to 3 hours. If you go in there, it's going to be a vat. Don't go in. I'm serious. And if you're a voter, do mail-in. I mean, these criminals are making you vote by Tuesday. You got to do mail-in. You can't go in person. Milwaukee had 180 polls that are normally open. They're down to 12? Okay, so that's down to 12 or fewer on election day. You're gonna cram 180 amount of people that would have gone to 180 different polling stations into 12, and you're going to make those poll workers sit there. Even if they had masks, they shouldn't go. It's way too dangerous. Without masks, hell no.
As of Tuesday, 7,000 poll workers said that they would not show up. And I don't blame them at all. And 111 precincts did not have a single poll worker on schedule, meaning many locations would be forced to close. At that point, Governor Tony Evers, a Democrat, said, "Oh, it's not a problem. We'll just get the National Guard to step in." But then you're risking the lives of members of the national, like lives are lives. Like what kind of stupid argument is that? And what's also stupid and incredibly disgusting and selfish is the response from Joe Biden, because Joe Biden was asked about it during one of his disastrous virtual town halls. And I say disastrous, not just due to the content of what he's saying here, but because his team can't get anything right. They apparently, they just discovered what the internet is. Just take a look at this disastrous video. Yes, I know it's out of sync. It's not our doing, it's their doing. But listen to the message that Biden is sending here as people are dying from this pandemic.
A convention having tens of thousands of people in one arena is very different than having people walk into a polling booth with accurate spacing to 6 to 10 feet apart, one at a time, going in and have machines scrubbed down. But I do think there are going to be a lot more. I think you could hold the election as well, dealing with mail-in ballots and same-day registration. I mean, there's a lot of things that can be done. That's for the Wisconsin courts and folks to decide.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And unsurprisingly, Bernie's response was very different because Bernie understands the importance of keeping people safe. I mean, it's incredible, right? Because on one hand, the Democratic establishment, rightfully so, is very critical of Donald Trump and how he refused to pass those federal guidelines encouraging social distancing, right? But then on the other hand, how do they have any leg to stand on? How could they ever criticize Donald Trump when they themselves are thinking about their own political agenda here? And they're putting people of Wisconsin in danger as we speak by encouraging them to go vote. And they're encouraging poll workers to show up to the polls. It's insane.
So look, as usual, it creates an uneven playing field. Because Biden is telling his older voters who will believe anything, yeah, you're going to be safe. Don't sweat it, man. My career is more important than your life. Go vote for me, right? But we as progressives, we're going to tell you the right thing to do because we actually care about you. I would love for Bernie to win. If Bernie wins in Wisconsin, it'd be a huge shock. It would say that he's back in the ball game. It could be a game changer, etc. But I'm going to tell you now, unless you got a mail-in ballot, do not go to those polling stations because I care about your life more than I care about anybody winning. So I'm not going to send you into a room where hundreds of people have been, maybe thousands of people. They expect 500,000 people to vote in person on Tuesday. Okay, you're going to walk into those rooms. If you brought a mask, they didn't all bring masks. And if you don't have a mask, don't go anywhere near it. And you got to have gloves because they're touching all the surfaces. Oh, Biden says, oh, don't worry. They'll clean the surface every time. Will they? A lot of people will forget. And not only that, a lot of them will botch it. By the way, it's not just Democrats. Republicans are also guilty. The Republican legislature of Wisconsin is demanding that they vote immediately. Maybe their motive is, hey, as many Democratic voters as we can kill will be better off in the general election. I don't know what the Democratic governor's motive is. I don't know what Tom Perez, I do know what their motive is. Win for the establishment at all costs. It is grotesque. 3 poll workers in Florida already got coronavirus from a polling station. And that was when the disease was not as heated as it is today. So that's at least the ones we know of. This is a nightmare waiting to happen.
They just don't value people's lives. They just don't. All of this is politically motivated on both sides. And it's just it's right in front of our faces. And anyone who dares to criticize this decision, right, will get blasted on Twitter. Soledad O'Brien will cry about it. But okay, Soledad O'Brien, why don't you show up to Wisconsin and work at the polls? Okay, get off Twitter for a second and do something of use with your time. Trash.
Their precious lives. Tony Evers, I want you to, if there's a single poll worker without a mask, I want Tony Evers showing up at those goddamn polls without a mask and without gloves and standing a post. I want Tom Perez standing a post. If you're not going to do it, and you're not going to do it the same way that the poll workers are, then you should cancel the election. Otherwise, later, if anyone dies because of it, you should be brought up on criminal charges.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome weekend. We'll see you next week.
Hello, friends. Welcome to the Viral Video Film School takeover of Happy Half Hour, which is made possible by viewers like you and the coronavirus. You know, I feel like we're all in a community together, working hand in hand to make sure we get through this. So I have put together a bunch of old Viral Video Film School episodes. This show I used to do, for which I won a Webby. And this is all internet communities. We're going to see people now in dazzling 480p who are doing vocal covers. It's amazing. Enjoy. Okay, so Video Gum posted a video of this guy who is a very passionate musician. So in hopes of impressing one of his favorite bands, he is doing a vocal cover of a deathcore song. Now, don't confuse deathcore with death metal or metalcore music. Those sound like this. This guy displays all the standard deathcore moves, like the ceiling shout, the angry wombat, or the hippo giving birth to a motorcycle. Factoid, when deathcore singers get laryngitis, they actually sound like this. The hills are alive with the sound of murder. Also, song choice. Wow your deathcore compatriots with 80s girl pop. Girls just want to have fun? This sounds more like girls just want to skin me in my sleep. Other lessons. Deathcore vocal covers are all about location, location, location. Your location should allow us to see what in your daily life inspires your angsty suburban rage. So when you're singing, we can hear you go, I can't handle being surrounded by antique knickknacks. By the way, I love this dude in Lord of the Rings. Why were you so mean to Frodo? I'm sure you have your reasons. Parents' basement is another choice location. At any moment, I'm expecting to hear, Craig, I'm about to put a load in. Come upstairs so I can wash your sweat. Okay, Mom. Also, think through your props. I'd advise against the remote control. I did my time, and no one else. The remote's just thinking, I'm sorry I don't work sometimes. My buttons are finicky. I don't deserve this. Think through what you're gonna do during the instrumental breaks. What permutation of doing nothing will you execute? This dude actually starts texting someone. He's actually texting me. Here's what he wrote. What are you doing tonight? And if you're having trouble sounding like two dinosaurs doing it, let this guy teach you how.
You gotta just take in like little bits of air, like kind of slowly but quick, so it's like it fills up your lungs quite well, and then you can use that to scream through your diaphragm.
Slow down. Okay, I'll write this. So, breathe air. Got it. I've been breathing these rocks, but I'll stop that. Alright, maybe I've been too hard on these guys. I realize this music is really hard to play and really hard to sing. And music's just a matter of preference. I might not be into what you like, deathcore. You might not be into what I like, porcelain core.
Sitting on the toilet. Sitting on the toilet. Sitting on the toilet.
Join us on the next one.
Sitting on the toilet.
We got a fan from Poland.
Sitting on the toilet.
Send us Walt fans.
Sitting on the toilet.
Thank you for watching that.
That one's one of my favorites ever. This next one is amazing because back in 2008, 2009 or something, Obama suddenly made it harder to get tobacco dip, and these guys just did not take that lying down. We interrupt your signal for a special YouTube political announcement. There's been a huge outbreak of angry protests in the YouTube sub-community of people who suck dip. I'd heard tell of an online culture of tobacco chewers, but I had no idea they were called dippers. I'd always referred to them as gross, or truck owners. But then this guy with his nearly 1,000 views set me good and straight.
This fucking Obama is gonna fucking ban flavored dips. It needs to be fucking impeached for it. I think she's gonna make this world better without dip. Everything will go fucking bankrupt and everything.
Yes, Barack Obama signed a law that granted the FDA more power.
Because it targets the youths.
And they in turn used that power to outlaw this man's sacred, beloved, flavored tobacco dip. Man, he is just sick and tired of this. Okay, maybe he's just sick. But this is a larger issue, because Skull Rebel is the mouthpiece of a much larger movement, singing out their new cultural anthem.
Obama is the worst president we've ever had.
If you're watching my videos and you voted for Obama, you're an idiot.
Barack Hussein Obama is a dumbass.
Obama is a total tart.
You can't even understand what they're saying half the time because they're so outraged. It's either that or they just have too much tobacco in their mouth.
I'd like to see this flashy man.
Well said. And you?
Yeah, there's a lot of this is the same. All y'all gonna lose. Even terrible fucking program get me here. Yeah, my favorite one I was just trying to make a lesson like I get man do my bull fucking shit.
Indeed. But the real tragedy here is that this has upset the serene, tranquil world of online tobacco dippers. They are a dignified people. People with a proud code of conduct that involves visible ball itching, ball flipping, and standing to scratch the butt. Get it, man. You just get that. They also drool a lot. I drool it. You got something right everywhere. So you know what, Congress, President, Federal Drug Administration, undo what's been did. So these guys and gals can go back to their bread and butter, daring each other to drink dip spit at $20 a pop.
He's making $20. Quick.
Oh, there's the puke. I can't watch that. Join us next time. Oh, here it comes. I didn't put wall things up because I didn't have time. Don't go anywhere when we come back. We got winos, we got people who want your money, and we've got this girl in a teeny-weeny bikini. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Viral Video Film School takeover of the Happy Half Hour. We're looking at online communities. You can watch this video and more at youtube.com/viralvideos and give me a little bit extra money through that. Now we're going to do wine vloggers. You're going to see this cup and a young Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V. So, you might have noticed that I've been a little pissy lately. And it's because the Wall Street Journal just laid off its 2 wine columnists, John Brecker and Dorothy Gator. And I'm so angry I need a drink. But does the Ferrari Carano 08 Fume live up to the 07 vintage? Or should I just nab a Marlboro Sauv? I don't know. It's terrible. So I have to rely on online wine vloggers. And they're kind of all over the place.
Lots of honey in this wine.
Oily kind of nose.
Candied pear.
Like chewing on a piece of gum. You know, there's that baseball mitt with marshmallows in it.
Raspberries, strawberries.
Strawberries? Are you sure you don't mean grape berries? Old grape water. That's what you smell. Crack the code. For a while, I didn't even know they were talking about wine. I thought they were just wasted and talking dirty.
It has a huge body on it. A bit of meatiness and fleshiness as well. This is an amazing nose. Kind of bites at your tongue.
Was it good for you? This guy is like the LeBron James of wine vloggers. And he, like the rest of them, tries to paint a picture in your head of what that wine tastes like. But here's what that picture would look like if it was an actual picture.
Kind of soapy, a little floral, a little bit of leather, little cherry. This is like red licorice, a little bit of that venison. It's like an alpine forest.
That's delicious? Soapier with fruit? Some wine enthusiasts just sound, I don't know, supremacist?
The Finger Lakes rock. We're still going. Our whites are strong.
Yes, whites are strong. White power. Some wine vloggers try to break down the stereotypes of wine. You know how when we think of wine, we think like girly white dudes with polo shirts and terracotta tasting rooms who just got back from the golf course? This guy breaks those stereotypes down.
Welcome to Wine Smash. We're smashing the stereotypes of wine. We just got done golfing. We had a great time. Probably shot like 2 over par.
Oh, that's about par for the course. This guy does nothing to break down the stereotype of wine buff as elitist weirdo.
Today, I want to tell you about how I drink wine at restaurants.
He brings his own bag of wine glasses to a restaurant.
Pretty much whenever I brought this out with any of my friends, they don't want to be seen with me.
Really? You don't say. Also, the name of your winecast is very important. So set yourself apart with a name like Wine Talk.
Hey, so this is Wine Talk.
Or maybe something else like Wine Talk.
This is Brandon Myers and this is Wine Talk.
Or something completely different like Wine Talk.
Welcome to Wine Talk.
Gather round all, it's now time for some wine jokes.
You know, I remember one guy, he said, I have a way of rating wine. It's yes or no.
You the guy!
Mostly focusing on Pinot Noir and Chardonnay in this trip. We're just kind of in a Burgundian mood, right, Anthony? Oh, most definitely.
Wine's coming out of my nose. Timothy, get in here. Did you just hear Thaddeus's quip? Requip to him. All right, I have been hard on these wine vloggers, but at least they found something they like, and they're enjoying themselves a lot more than, say, some wine makers. They have a tougher time of things.
Stop.
Oh, wow, is she actually hurt?
Oh dear.
I think she's actually hurt.
Join us on the next Viral Video Film School, brought to you by Geico. Thanks for the dolls, Catherine and Allie. Goodbye. All right, moving along. Drank some wine during that one, and that wine was strong. Anyhow, we're going to move on to our next community of people who do everything possible not to call what they're doing a pyramid scheme, but that's exactly what it is, and you'll learn about them right now. These are cash gifting people. What's that old saying? A penny saved is a penny given to a stranger on the internet. This holiday season, why not get in on a little, let's not call it pyramid scheme, known as cash gifting.
Cash gifting. Cash gifting.
Cash gifting. Cash gifting.
What is cash gifting? It's a program in which someone recruits you to pay them money and then promises you'll make all that money back and more if you recruit other people to buy into the system. And the organization grows exponentially, if not like a pyramid, then at least in the shape of the Luxor Hotel. The sketchiness of a stranger asking you to send them money is topped only in sketchiness by the way they ask you to send it. By placing cash in an envelope, in a magazine, in a larger envelope, addressed to someone like this.
I'm trying to hide my identity a little bit here by wearing my glasses and my hat.
What? You want me to send you money? Person who dresses like thief cartoons do? There are about 17,300 cash gifting videos, and that's when you search in quotes, and each one contains a stranger trying to convince you that sending them money is a dynamite idea.
Give it a try. You have nothing to lose.
What are you talking about? What about all that money I sent you in non-sequential unmarked bills? These complete strangers show you how refreshing it is to suddenly be receiving cash in the mail.
I've never been involved in a program where you can actually receive cash through the mail.
You never gotten cash in the mail before? Then you've never held these other equally reputable jobs, such as a bookie, a drug dealer, a bookie who also deals drugs. These people will pitch you high returns, citing what seems to be just a nonsensical list of numbers.
Everybody's saying, I want to get into the $3,500 board. Shit. Yeah, right. Hey, at $100, $250, 90% of the people are coming in at $250, and I signed 5 people up today.
I had 95 105s this 29:30 in the afternoon. Jeesh. These people want me to give them $3,500. And I don't even know if a single one of them is wearing pants. That is important. Really, I think this guy sums it up best.
Are you appearing to people as an amateur? As somebody who's begging for money? Or are you being a professional?
But even as a professional, you're still a beggar, man. You're just a beggar with bandwidth. The only difference between you and a normal beggar is that you don't have to leave your house to hold up a sign on the on-ramps and off-ramps of the information superhighway. You get to make a video asking people to visit your super legitimate site, even when you can't remember its name.
InternetCashSolutions.com. Sorry, InternetCashSolutions1.com. InternetCashSolutions1.com.
Got it! Join us on the next Viral Video Film School. Bang! Awesome. Welcome back. This next lesson isn't part of a community like, you know, the vocal covers people were or the winos. This is a specific video from an old Viral Video Film School that puts you in a larger, broader community of anyone whose dad has ever gotten really pissed off. So yesterday I was doing what I normally do, trolling the web for people shocking themselves with dog collars, which I found. But then I came across this description. What you're about to witness may shock you. My friend's dad had the bright idea of recording himself yelling at his son on a webcam. Let's see how that turned out.
This is it, F. I've had it up to my nose. The computer would not go on. There was a problem. This stupid monitor would not come on. I am tired. This is the last time I'm telling you. Don't turn the f***ing monitor off. I don't ever want to see those green lights and yellow lights bouncing back and up, saying, oh, there's a problem with this.
Wow. Why is it so compelling? You don't expect this guy to know what a webcam is, let alone use it so masterfully. It's like the dog who can ride a skateboard. It's not part of God's plan. But Jesus, man. Why else is it compelling? He nails the archetype. Just like this guy nailed the archetypal angry New Yorker.
I don't know what kind of f***ing place is. I just want a large f***ing coffee and a fresh piece of f***ing pound cake.
And this girl nailed the archetypal hot teenager on her bed telling me her life story.
So when I was 4, They gave me an eye patch.
So is Papa here, the archetypal NASCAR dad, which he represents visually via the reflective progressive lenses that probably change color when he walks outside, the handlebar mustache, which he's had since 1972 and used to be accompanied by probably a lot more hair on top, which is the reason he wears the cool hat that he and his drinking buddies all bought at that biker bar in Tempe, Arizona, that their wives can't stand, but they wear anyway. Over the course of his 5-minute and 56-second tirade, he delivers all the necessary dad cliches.
Who's paying the money? Me. Who's doing everything? Me. You disappoint me tremendously. I'm not Mr. Nice Guy. You're gonna work your f***ing ass off. I am so goddamn mad, I can't even see straight. You are to cut the grass, and I mean a good job.
But even more dad are the cliches that he messes up because he's so mad, like, don't even think about it.
Don't think about anything this week.
If you don't like it, fine.
If you're upset, tough shit.
If you want to leave, there's the door.
If you want to leave, you got the door.
There's also my favorite. You're grounded until I say otherwise. I'll say it until I'm blue in the face.
You're grounded until I say so. I'll say that until I'm done.
Yeah, that's how it works. People say things until they're done. Otherwise, they're still saying them. That's how mouths work. He just gets so mad.
No! Shut off! Monitor!
Dad, irate. Son, stupid.
Well, guess what? F***head, I'm an asshole. You got it, an asshole.
Yeah, this guy's great. But perhaps the most interesting thing about this whole deal is that if you saw this happen in real life, you'd probably send this guy to child services. But since you saw him on the internet, you send him to all your friends. There's probably a lesson in that. Join us next time on Viral Video Film School. Don't go away. When we come back, we got people who bought a lot of stuff and want you to know about it. Also, Pervos, there's a bikini. All right, everybody, we're in the home stretch. You need to. This is the biggest video we ever did. This had millions and millions of views. It's about haulers, which are people who go buy things and tell you how much they spent on them. One girl in this actually ended up in an episode of Pop Trigger. Look up that one. Brett got catfished. Usually there comes a point over the course of my study of a viral video trend where I, understand that trend. But in the 19 months I've been working on this lesson, I just don't have a clue. It's called hauls. In a haul video, you tell people where you just went shopping, and then you show them the things you bought.
Crackle Pink, Little Bag,
Pale Ale,
X-Rocks, M&M's, Skywalker, Bread, Hair Boot, Cassette Tape,
Gorf.
Like, whoa.
And that's it. There's nothing more than that. This woman refers to her treasures.
And let me share my treasures with you. I got this snowman here.
Sock snowman? Treasures indeed. Up yours, One-Eyed Willie. This is where the real rich stuff is. Come on, haulers. Why show me this?
Very cute 50s. I love the cut of the top,
Actually, I get that one. You just keep on doing what you're doing. And I understand this guy. I mean, everyone should see the vintage video games he got off Craigslist. They'll make you crap.
You guys are gonna crap on this one. You guys are gonna crap when you see this.
I crapped. The hauling world is split in two over one thing: whether to reveal prices. Some people choose to tell you how much they paid.
And it's $1.20. It was half off from that, and it would be 60 cents, $2.40, which would end up being $1.20, and this was 90 cents, which would be 45 cents, 30 cents, and half off of that would be 15 cents.
And that all adds up to a huge waste of time. Others keep the prices secret.
This is everything I've hauled, collected, pretty much in the past couple months. So please no questions asked about how much I spend or all that, because that's personal,
Yeah, it's personal. Now let me tell you all the cool stuff I can afford. Some people haul once or twice, and I can forgive them. Then there's career haulers, and when they haul, thousands of people listen.
It's an H&M bodycon dress, and I don't know how well you can see the stripes, but yep, it's striped.
That is when you can hear them.
Pro girl thrifting, like get a lot of money, get tons of things, and like
same price for
and it can still be like tons, but they just don't fit right. Yeah, so you can hold like if they're leather, like plastic.
Could you please speak none at a time, please? Thank you.
You know what, maybe it is unfair to get mad at these teenage girls. I mean, things are tough when you're a look what I bought icon. And in these trying economic times, it is these people who are going to haul this country out of the recession through their uncontrollable consumer spending, even if they worsen the credit crisis.
Still don't have a job, but I still went to Lush and I bought, I swear, about like 20 things.
If that's how you think, I've got an amazing mortgage for you. Join us on the next Viral Video Film School. Send me wall things. I hope you enjoyed this lovely special of old Viral Video Film School episodes that we are re-airing on TYT to help you get through the quarantine. I hope we brought a little joy. And, you know, I probably should have at the beginning said we'll have a drink together, but I assume that you do that on your own because this is what Happy Half Hour is all about. It's a symposium coming together to drink. We have a good time. Watch youtube.com/viral videos. Go there, subscribe if I ever go back to it. Enjoy. Thanks, Alex, for editing this and everyone for watching. I'm going to just drink.
Hey there, and welcome to the Friday postgame. I'm your host, Malcolm Fleshner. With me, Steve-O, Dave Kohler, the three amigos. Come on.
Yeah.
Having a great time. Hope you're enjoying your Friday. We are recording this a couple weeks ago from where you are, so we don't know what's going on. I mean, we were recording this 2 days after Super Tuesday, so we don't know what's going on in the presidential election, the primary, Bernie. I mean, this morning, remember when Elizabeth Warren dropped out? Remember how that was a big deal? Yeah, that happened to us this morning. To you, you're like, oh yeah, Elizabeth Warren, right, I remember her. So bear with us is my point. I mean, we may all be quarantined. Coronavirus may have us all in our homes. We may be just ravagers. It's like a post-apocalyptic hellscape. But at least you got the Friday postgame to enjoy.
All right, so I'm gonna make a prediction right now because Warren dropped out today, and by the time you see this, you'll know if my prediction is correct or incorrect, so I'll just do it right now. I predict she will endorse Joe Biden.
Dave, what do you think she did?
Not endorse Joe Biden.
You think she's gonna
Maybe
not endorse?
Silence. Yeah,
no endorsement?
No
I think she's going to hold off until it's essentially already decided, and then she's gonna endorse Hillary Clinton. Because she's a traditionalist. Some people, they live in the past. They want to relive the glories of the past, and she's just, it's a well-worn path for her.
Yes, and it's crazy to think that she would endorse Joe Biden, given how much they disagree on policy, especially around banking and bankruptcy. But she will frame it as he is best positioned to defeat Donald Trump, and that's our #1 goal at this moment. So,
and who knows what the DNC, what the Democrats will have offered her? Something,
So I think she will endorse Joe Biden.
I mean, it's quite possible that. We don't know now, but it's quite possible that as we're speaking, the Bernie and Biden camps are arguing, both offering her like the VP nod. I mean, who knows?
Well, I'm going to predict when you're watching this that there's most intelligent, reasonable, fair people will say Bernie has no chance of winning this nomination.
By the time this airs, Bernie will be essentially eliminated.
Yeah.
Well, that's a possibility, of course. All right, but that's not what we're going to open with today, although we already have, so that's a lie. What we're going to open with is my new favorite game, which I discovered. I think we played it the first time a month or so ago. This is a it's a variation on the game where I've discovered the YouTube algorithm. YouTube transcribes videos automatically, and it transcribes the TYT videos. And sometimes the transcriptions are remarkably accurate. They're very good, but they have some trouble with names. Some names they have a little difficulty with. And I expect you guys to do well on this, but it's called Lost in Translation, and here's how we're playing it today. I want you guys to identify the following prominent individuals whose names were mistranscribed by the YouTube transcription algorithm in recent TYT videos. These are all names you're familiar with. The only qualification is it's somebody who was mentioned in a TYT story for whatever reason, and the YouTube transcription got the name wrong.
All right.
And they start easy and get harder as we go. There are 7 of them, I believe. And the first one is here. John Adarola.
Are we gonna write 7 on this thing? Or
no, you just write your answer. Write your answer. We'll show it what your answer is, and then we'll reveal. And whether we don't even have to keep score. Okay, so we have our answers. Steve says John Adarola. Dave says John Adarola. What is the correct answer? It is in fact John Adarola. There he is.
You were right. They started easy.
We're having fun, right?
That's fun.
Okay, I hope you're playing along at home. Spend a lot of time on this.
It's a false sense of security.
Yes. All right. Who's next? The next one is Peabody Judge. Massachusetts, we pronounce that Peabody. In other places in the country, it's pronounced Peabody, but in Massachusetts, it's Peabody. If you ever go, just so you know.
Oh.
And who is Peabody Judge? Who could this be? You recognize the background image there also?
Yes. Scarlett Johansson.
And
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray from?
Lost in Translation.
Okay, just checking. Okay, we have Pete Buttigieg and Pete Buttigieg both spelled correctly, which is very nice. Good job.
Or spelled differently, so one's
no, yours misspelled. I'm sorry. You got the G-I-E-G, you got an extra E in there. And the correct answer is Pete Buttigieg. You're right, very good. 2 for 2. You guys are kicking tail. I hope you're doing as well at home.
Kicking some Buttigieg.
Yeah, that's right. Who be the judge? You be the judge, Pete Buttigieg. Next, all right, who's next? Kent Clip is thine.
All right, let's get to the hard ones.
Kent Clip is thine. Who is Kent Clip is thine? You know, some people at home might not find it as easy as you do, Dave.
I'll be eating my words, I hope, in a couple.
All right, Steve says it's Kenny Clips. Dave says it's Ken Klippenstein. And the correct answer is Kenny Klippenstein. There he is. Oh, look, that's a shot from Reporting In when he was on with remember that show? What a great show that was.
He's a good guy, smart guy.
Yeah.
Miss him.
They stole him. Stole him away at the Nation. All right, Trader. So what's next? What do we have next? Francesca Parentini. Francesca Parentini. Who does YouTube think is named Francesca Parentini? And I kept the same capitalization as in the original transcription, in case there was any question. Do you mind that it's so easy? Francesca Fiorentini. The correct answer is Francesca Fiorentini. Good job, guys. All right, now we're into the double lost in translation round where dollar values, they're skyrocketing. Who's next? Jane Cougar. Who is Jane Cougar? Jane Cougar. Jane Cougar. Edwin, do you know? Did you know all the other ones? He's nodding, Edwin's nodding. We have an answer of Cenk Uygur and Cenk Uygur. The correct answer is Cenk Uygur, there he is. Look at that, this is Cenk's smile. When he has to smile for a camera, it's terrible. I don't know if you've noticed. He has the worst fake smile, which I think is endearing, but it's like this.
You know what? Okay, so no, that's his real smile. The very first time I ever saw Cenk was during football practice in 9th grade, and he had just made a good play.
The first time you saw Jane Cougar?
Yes, he had just he was playing linebacker, and he just picked off the pass, kind of interception, and then we cheer for him, and he had the same stupid smile. I was like, who's that guy? What a dork. That was my first thought of Cenk.
Okay, if you say so, but I've noticed that when he smiles for the camera, he has that, look at
that look.
I'm constipated look on his face, and it's like I'm trying to smile, but I'm in a lot of pain here. So none of these he's not smiling at any of those. All right, so that's fine. You guys are 5 for 5. Great, I expect you to do well.
5 for 5.
We got 2 more. How are we gonna do in the last 2? The last, number 6, we have Primal Jump On. Primal Jump On. Edwin, you got this one? Primal Jump On. Who is Primal Jump On? You know it at home, I hope you do. Dave's still writing. He wrote Pramila Jayapur, which is not her name, but it's close. And Steve has written Pramila Jayapal, and that is
That's who I meant.
Yeah, I know you meant. All right, but are you right is the question. Yes, Pramila Jayapal, there she is.
I misspelled her name, but her first name, but I got the last name spelled correctly.
Yes. And they've got, I didn't put any of these B-roll together. They all had these ready to go, which thank you. You make the show seem much more.
Who is Pramila Jayapal?
Who is she?
I mean, I know who she is.
Yeah.
You think there's some another 19 who don't, maybe?
Everyone knows who she is.
Okay. All right, last one. Last one. You guys gonna go 7 for 7? Number 7 for O'Connor. Lost in translation for O'Connor. Who could this be for O'Connor? Dave's writing something. Steve seems maybe flummoxed. It's the toughest one, I thought, which is why I made it 7th. And Dave's hiding his answer from Steve. Steve, we're gonna need an answer. Uh-oh. I'm gonna sneak a peek at Dave's. All right. I see, do you know this one? Edwin says he read Dave's, but he agrees. Good for you. All right, we have an answer of Ro-Kana from Dave and an answer of Macaque in Uranus from Steve. Steve's new. Hope you were watching 2 weeks ago and you know what that is. The correct answer is Ro-Kana. Dave, 7 for 7, very good.
Perfectly, both ends, everything.
Congratulations. And that's how you play Lost in Translation, or you don't, probably, because this is the first time anybody's ever, well, second time you guys played it. How do you like that? Is that, should we,
It was funny, it was good.
Yeah, it's a good game. I actually like that other Google game better where you
fill in the blank.
Fill in
autofill in the blank?
Yeah.
Autofill in the blank is good too. All right, well, I'll bring back autofill in the blank. This is, bear in mind, the Friday post game is not really part of my job. So everything I do for the Friday post game, I have to work extra hard earlier in the week to get all my stuff done, front load it, so I have time to do the Friday post game. And then the night before, we have 95 graphics. I don't have help in the graphics department. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that, for example, like a couple of weeks ago when you may have noticed that there were a couple of mess ups in the graphics, that's because there's nobody looking over my shoulder, nobody checking any of my work, and I'm doing it myself, and I'm not a graphics person or really any good at any of this.
Next week, we're gonna talk about a guy who spent time outside of his job and did something that saved tens of millions of lives.
Well, I love the best thing about those types of stories, and remember when we talked about William Herschel last week, is that Dave's reaction to anybody who does something substantial with his life is to be like, I've wasted my life. And I'm like, what are you talking about? We're having a good time. We're doing important work here on the Friday post game, Dave. Yeah. All right, so let's move on. What do we have next? Oh, we have your story.
Okay.
This is your Fareed Zakaria. So Dave wanted to talk about Fareed Zakaria, wrote an article about why Bernie is full of crap about Scandinavia.
Right, it appeared in the Washington Post and then Fareed talked about it on CNN. But first let's bring you the column a little bit. Senator Sanders says his proposals are not radical, pointing again and again to countries in Northern Europe such as Denmark, Sweden, and Norway as examples of the economic system he wants to bring to the United States. The image he conjures up is of a warm and fuzzy social democracy in which market economics are kept on a tight leash through regulation. The rich are heavily taxed and the social safety net is generous. That is, however, an inaccurate and highly misleading description of those countries today. Take billionaires. Sweden and Norway both have more billionaires per capita than the US. Not only that, these billionaires are able to pass on their wealth to their children tax-free. Sanders' vision of these countries, like much of his ideology, seems to be stuck in the 1960s and 70s, a period when these countries were indeed pioneers in creating a social market economy. In Sweden, government spending as a percentage of GDP doubled from 1960 to 1980. But as the Swedish commentator Norberg points out, this experiment in Sanders-style democratic socialism tanked the Swedish economy. Versions of this problem and these market reforms took place all over Northern Europe, creating what is now called the Flexicurity Plan. Fareed Zakaria remembers meeting the Danish Prime Minister Rasmussen. He emphasized that the first part of the model was key, ensuring employers had the flexibility to hire and fire workers easily without excessive regulation or litigation. In addition, he stressed, countries like Denmark had to stay extremely open, erecting no barriers to free trade. None of these countries has a minimum wage. It is true that these countries have a generous safety net, and in order to fund it, have high taxes. What is often not pointed out, however, is that in order to raise enough revenue, these taxes fall disproportionately on the poor, middle, and upper middle class. The biggest hit to the poor and middle classes in Northern Europe comes from a national sales tax of about 25%. In other words, bringing the economic system of Denmark, Sweden, and Norway to the US would mean embracing more flexible labor markets, light regulations, and a deeper commitment to free trade. It would mean a more generous set of social benefits to be paid for by taxes on the middle class and poor. If Sanders embraced all that, it would be radical indeed.
Okay, so we can come back to us. We got a couple more graphics related to this, but we'll get to them later.
We might, I don't know how quickly, we might want to go back to some of it, but we'll try without it. So for the purposes of having a dialectic here, I'm going to say, my initial reaction when I read that, I said, oh, you know what? This is the first time that I read a pretty convincing critique of Sanders' philosophy. And then the next day I said, oh my, what was I thinking? This is terrible. So I really do want to try to defend Zachariah's column.
It's Zakaria.
Zakaria. But Bernie is not saying the US should change its whole economic and social system to be like Denmark, Sweden, and Norway. He's saying some of my proposals are used over there and it's totally fine and we should use them here. I don't think the US should try to become Norway, Sweden, or Denmark, but I don't think Bernie Sanders thinks that either.
So you're saying it's a straw man argument in the first place. Zakaria, nobody has anything here. Zakaria is arguing against a position of Bernie's that Bernie doesn't actually hold.
Right.
He is saying that we can do single payer healthcare here in the United States. They do it in Scandinavian countries, and we can do it here. They do it their way. We can arrive at the same end result in our own way.
And then, of course, what Zakaria totally ignores is the hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars in defense spending that the US does that no other country in the world does. There's where the money is. That could help fund some of these programs. After 24 hours of thinking of it, no, it was not convincing to me at all. I want to know what you two think.
Now, when Dave sent it around, it made you angry, I know, because you were bored and didn't like the article and didn't like that Dave had made you read it.
One, I wasn't angry and I wasn't bored because I didn't read it.
Oh, there you go.
Yes, I completely ignored it. In fact, I joked that we should have a totally true or totally bullshit on whether or not we should even read the article, right?
Well, now you've kind of read
the reason why I didn't read the article is because I knew exactly what it was going to say before I even read it, which is to point out the differences between Northern Europe and our system and explain why it would be impossible for us to get there, which is exactly what, as Dave said, is not what Bernie is saying. And I can't stand that about mainstream media because they seem like, they're smart enough to know that their arguments are completely disingenuous. When they say socialism and when Bloomberg says communism, okay, which is even more preposterous, and they point to, look at the failed state of Venezuela. That's what you want us to be. You want us to be like Cuba. And then Bernie says, no, we can do some of the things that our friends in Europe are doing. And then they say, oh, the Scandinavian fantasy. Okay, so what Bernie is saying is not controversial at all. And this is some of the things I try to explain to folks who are not that into politics and just like dinner conversation. He wants to try new things. Okay, can we just try new things? And right now, the current system is not working. It is doomed to fail. It's already failing. 60,000 people are dying every year because lack of healthcare. It's the #1 cause of bankruptcy. 600,000 people go bankrupt. However, hundreds of thousands of people go homeless. It is failing us today. It is immoral to not even try for a better solution. So he's saying, let's try for those solutions. And they're saying, we can't do that because that solution isn't exactly what somebody else has. And we can't exactly do that because we're different. I mean, these are bullshit arguments. Yeah. And no one is even saying, okay, at least as far as I know, that if Bernie fails to achieve perfect utopian situation, then he's a fraud. We're saying we just want a guy who just fights for this, okay? For the first time in our lives, we want a politician that cares and will fight for the things that ordinary Americans want. That is not a controversial statement, okay? And then all these jackasses in mainstream media and the liberal elite that Dave and I run in circles with, namely our close friends, they love to demonize all of that by saying it cannot succeed. There's just no way, right? And they point, so it's deeply frustrating, and that's why I don't want to read this fucking article, right? The same bullshit every single time. We can't do it, it's impossible. Those guys have a different system, we're totally different, we need innovation, blah, blah, blah. No, we just want a leader that will try to get there. And in the process of getting there, he may have to change his mind. He may have to say, well, we can't do it in 4 years, maybe we have to do it in 8 years. I don't know what compromises has to be made, but you can't make compromises even before you even try.
Yeah. I like how Bernie's never done anything in his life, but if he gets elected, he's gonna turn us into a communist Cuba.
Yeah.
Wow, he's a powerful guy.
You're right that it's a straw man argument. He is using a straw man argument, and yeah, the standard we can't do it here because we're completely different. Is it? But I would say, I mean, I don't like Fareed Zakaria. I can't stand him, and I find him super disingenuous. I think he's totally full of shit. And throughout this article, his thumb is on the scale. I'm no expert about how Scandinavian countries are run, but he says they don't even have a minimum wage. They have free trade and they have no regulations and so on and so forth. Their countries are almost entirely unionized.
That's right.
And when they have unions,
and they have
they have workers who are on the boards of these companies. So here in the United States, when we have free trade and we reduce barriers, the companies say, well, let's just move them overseas. But if you have workers who are on your board and the company says, oh, let's move overseas, and the workers on the board said, maybe we don't do that, then you have a stopgap. You don't need regulations. When you have unions negotiating wages, you don't need a minimum wage. In fact, it's better the way they do it because they have very strict rules about, the unions negotiate the rules about what position you're in, what you have to make. So they have, it's not just this broad, nobody can get paid less than this. It's all different tiers that people are paid at different levels depending on what they do. So, and that, I mean, again, I'm not an expert on this. So that's just one way. Another thing he says in the article is like, well, Sweden has twice as many billionaires per capita as the United States does, but Bernie wants to get rid of billionaires. Well, what about Sweden? It's not the number of billionaires, it's the extent of income inequality. And so the problem in the United States is not just that we have billionaires, but that we have so many billionaires and then so many people who are making so little. The Scandinavian countries are mostly middle-class countries. They have much larger middle class than we do because of their social safety net and because they have unions and all these things. So it's a disingenuous argument on that front. He says, oh well, they have low taxes. Their estate tax is only 15%. Here in the United States, it's 40%. Or their taxes on the highest earners is X number, and ours is actually higher. And that's bullshit also, because what the estate tax is doesn't take into account how they hide their money and how they don't pay nobody pays the actual tax, the 40% or whatever the highest tax bracket is. Mm-hmm. Nobody pays that.
Yeah.
The effective tax rate is much lower, but when you got a VAT of 25%, everybody's got to pay it. The rich have to pay it, the poor have to pay it. So, and then when they pay their I don't know the tax system there, but I'm guessing they have a lot fewer loopholes and ways and trusts and all these ways you can hide your money and avoid being taxed.
So I don't want to get sucked into this. They do this and we do that argument with the likes of Fareed Zakaria, because I'm not an expert on the European way, but
he knows enough to know that he's being disingenuous.
That's exactly right, and I know he's cherry picking information to bolster his argument. And my point is, his argument is full of shit, because I don't care. Yes, of course we're different. You know what? Sweden is different from Denmark, and they're both different from Norway. I know, right? So we're not going to say that we're going to take everything from them and bring it all over here. We're saying we're going to take certain elements from these places, the best elements that make sense for us and our system,
and adapt them to our system.
Yes. For him to make this huge, song and dance about how we can't be exactly like them. Yeah, no shit. No one's saying that we should be exactly like them. We just want to take elements of their system that works well and bring it over here.
We also want to stop spending.
And the point is,
$700 billion a year in defense spending.
Those elements don't destroy those countries, and they won't destroy this country if we adopt them here in our way.
Well, in case you're wondering, if you don't know about Fareed Zakaria, there are a couple of things I want to share with you to limb his character, as it were. And the first one is this graphic. You need to know, there he is. So this is one of my favorites from him. He was a student at Yale and opposed to divesting in South Africa. Fareed Zakaria, class of '86, former president of the Yale Political Union, argued that Yale should not divest from its holdings in South Africa. And this is a photo from a debate. So he was opposed to divestment, not even like opposed to sanctions or like the Reagan administration, but even opposed to Yale divesting. because I wasn't there. I don't know why, but I think that's a bad take in retrospect.
Wrong side of history on that.
Wrong side of history on that. And then we have a couple of quotations that I grabbed from Wikipedia. Zakaria initially supported the 2003 invasion of Iraq. He said at the time, "The place is so dysfunctional, any stirring of the pot is good. America's involvement in the region is for the good." And then more recently, Zakaria supported the April 2017 US missile strike against a Syrian government-controlled airbase. Zakaria praised President Trump's strike and said it was the moment he became president of the United States. Okay, so
that's exactly right.
So later on, he became a Iraq war opponent. He didn't like the way it was prosecuted and so on and so forth. But fuck you, if you supported the war, you own it. And to pretend that is a reason to go to war because listen, we're out of ideas. I guess we should bomb the fuck out of the place and see what happens. That's your argument. That was Tom Friedman's argument. It didn't even matter. We didn't have to go to Iraq. We could go anywhere. We had to somewhere in the Middle East. We had to go in and have American soldiers kicking in doors, door to door in Baghdad, or Tikrit, or maybe it was north and south of Tikrit. I'm not sure exactly, east and west of Tikrit, where all the chemical weapons that Rumsfeld identified were. But if you're, and he said, and we need to tell them, suck on this. That's what he said. This is the New York Times columnist. Fareed Zakaria is in Newsweek magazine. He's this esteemed commentator, and his argument is we need to go to war against Iraq because the country is so dysfunctional after we've had crippling sanctions on the country for over 10 years. It's so dysfunctional. We need to blow it the fuck up. This is not. You should be disqualified as a commentator. Nobody should have to listen to you ever again about anything.
Agreed. Anyone who was pro-Iraq war in 2003 should shut the fuck up about foreign policy for the rest of their lives and beg for forgiveness to every single person who lost a family member in Iraq and say, "I am so sorry for being so goddamn stupid." Right? Those people can all suck it. I have no interest in hearing from them about anything. Because here's the thing, like Joe Biden likes to say, "Oh, I believe in Dick Cheney and George W. Bush." I was not a news major at the time, okay? In 2003, I had a business just importing and exporting some goods from overseas to the US. And I knew, okay, and I'm not a foreign policy genius, but I knew the war was total bullshit. And I'm not the only person. A whole bunch of people did. So don't tell me, "Oh, no one could have known. We had bad intelligence." No, you knew. Yeah. And you chose to believe the lies because you wanted to further a certain policy direction. So
and you thought it was going to be good for you politically.
Exactly. So all those politicians, all those commentators, all those pro-Iraq war idiots, fuck off forever. I don't want to ever hear from you on anything.
All that you can say is, I was wrong and I should not have believed them. And American foreign policy is not based on trying to spread democracy. We serve the military industrial complex and the fossil fuel industry, et cetera, the deep state, et cetera, et cetera. But nobody would ever say that. But Joe Biden saying, "Oh, well, I was tricked by Dick Cheney and George Bush and Don Rumsfeld. They lied to me and I believed them." That's worse.
That is worse. And you don't even have to get into all the whole deep state stuff, and because people then will say that you're conspiracy theorists. Just the regular facts, okay? Just the fact that Saddam Hussein didn't do 9/11. He just didn't do 9/11. So why are we attacking him? Why are we invading him? That makes no sense. And the allegations of weapons of mass destruction and how he gassed his own people. He gassed his own people 20 years earlier at our behest.
Yeah, with our gas.
With our assistance, with our gas. So right away, you ask 3 questions and right away, it's total bullshit. Like anyone with a flicker of energy in their brain knows that there's total bullshit. So when you have access to power and information, and you work for major news corporations, and you're the fucking president of the Yale Political Union, you should know better, right?
All you have to do is watch the clip that you just alluded to. Rumsfeld saying, "We know where the weapons are, north, east, west, somewhat of it." Game over right there. It's clear that it was all bullshit.
Yeah, and that Joe Biden is, quite possibly by now, the Democratic nominee, and he supported the Iraq war, is scandalous. And the fact that not only does he not get, is he not driven out of politics and have no shot at the nomination, but that Bernie, I got you, but Bernie gets no credit for having been right. And at the time, opponents of the war were excoriated, dragged through the mud. You're sympathetic to terrorists. You must like Al Qaeda, who did 9/11.
It had 80% support.
And for you to stand up and be brave and have the courage and the conviction and the character to oppose it took real cojones, and they get no credit for it. And Joe Biden pays no price for it. Fuck you, fuck Fareed Zakaria, fuck Joe Biden, fuck all you people who supported the Iraq war. I'm definitely with Steve. We should never have to hear from you again. Anytime you're on TV, we should be like, why should we listen to you when you were so wrong about the Iraq war?
There should be a red graphic, just pulsating next to their head saying, this fucking idiot voted for the Iraq war.
Why should we be asking you about whatever it is we're talking about because you were so disastrously wrong about the Iraq war? Why shouldn't we have somebody on who was right about it?
$6 trillion, thousands and thousands of American soldiers dead and wounded and broken, families destroyed, and countless Iraqis. The entire region was destroyed. It gave rise to ISIS, instability for decades. Like, what a disaster. So if you were in favor of that when regular people like me and a whole bunch of other people knew that it was total bullshit in 2003, fuck off.
Get out of politics and get another job.
That's all the time we have for on Aggressive Progressives today. All right, they're kicking us out. We're all done with Friday postgame for this week. Thanks so much for watching. We love you guys, the Proud 19. Comment below. Let us know what you think about all the stuff that we're spewing. And hopefully, assuming there's no coronavirus, we'll be back next week and with more Aggressive Progressive style Friday postgame and Friday postgame fun. As always, though, stay strong.